Hey, it's Ken here from Body Knows Best. Wanted to congratulate you for getting this cheat sheet. It should be in your inbox within the next 5 to 10 minutes. But what I wanted to do in this video was to actually walk you through this cheat sheet step by step so you get the most value out of it. Because I don't want this to be another thing that's just sitting in your inbox and you get no value out of it. I actually wanted to walk you step by step because this is something totally different to what you would have experienced in the past. In the past, I know a lot of people have come up to me, they've said, Ken, you're a nutrition consultant, can you give me a meal plan? And my answer is yes, I can give you a meal plan, but a meal plan isn't going to be as useful as actually giving you a framework on deciding how you should portion your meals. So this is a framework, that's why I called it a meal template cheat sheet rather than a meal plan. It's a framework to help you decide how to portion your meals without ever needing to count calories ever again. So it's a very, very cool thing. The other thing that I wanted to go through was to actually show you how this applies to the overall framework on creating long-term change. And I use those words really carefully, creating long-term change, because I know that a lot of people are able to lose weight, but they always rebound. And I was that. I was in that same position, but I've lost 34 kilos and I've been able to keep it off. And that's how I help my clients do. And the bigger picture is really, really important for you to understand to be able to create that long-term change. So I'll go through a couple of case studies and I'll go through a framework so you get the most value out of this. And I hope we get to talk in person. But let's jump straight into it.
Alrighty, so the first part of the cheat sheet is actually figuring out a new measuring system rather than relying on counting calories. And you may have guessed it from the graphics, it's actually using your hand. So your hand is proportionate to your body size. And you can actually use it as a way to measure the amount of protein that you're going to have, which is one palm. So the thickness and the width of your palm is what dictates one serving of protein. One fist is a serving of vegetables, one cupped hand is a serving of carbs, and the fats is one thumb. So the way that this works for both males and females is step one is that you figure out how much protein you need. So for males, you need two palm-sized portions, which roughly equates to 40 to 60 grams. So I hope you can see the power of this without actually having to measure and having a weighing scale. By the way, you're not going to have a weighing scale when you're eating out with friends. So this comes in very, very handy in those scenarios. So protein, two palm sizes for males, one palm size for females. Vegetables, this should be making up about half of the plate. And most people don't have enough of this, but two fist size for males and one fist size for females. Carbohydrates, now this one, it's actually, you have to try this out to know exactly how much one cup of carbohydrates looks like, and then you'll get the hang of it. And fats, again, two thumbs for males and one thumb for females. Now, in addition to this, what I've actually done is I've actually given you a food list as well to make it easier to plan your meals in advance. And the way that this works is I've put the lean protein here in the top left corner. And what I'd actually suggest to you is, obviously we don't have time to actually go into how we want to cook the foods and actually make full meals out of this. But what I'd suggest for you is to actually look at the lean protein, pick out the top 3 or 4 ones that you really, really like, and have about 3 to 4 different types of ways that you can actually cook protein. So for example, you might like roast chicken, you might like lamb in a curry, you might like lentils and beans to be done in a different way. So pick out the 3 or 4 different ones and build your cooking skills around that. The next is vegetables. Now the 3 or 4 cooking skills could be, you might have it sauteed, you might have it in a stir fried, you might have it grilled, you might have it steamed. So get really comfortable with doing it 3 to 4 different styles. And protein and vegetables, if you know how to cook protein and vegetables, that's a lot of your hard work already done. Next come the smart carbohydrates. Smart carbohydrates, again, whole grains, know how to cook whole grains, which is pretty much putting it in boiling water and letting it cook. And then you've got your fruits and legumes and starchy tubers there as well. And healthy fats is probably going to be the easiest for most of us because it just means that we sprinkle a bit of olive oil or different types of oils, or just cut up a bit of avocado, or have our nuts and seeds. So that is pretty much a very, very, very quick overview of how to make the meal templates. But the one thing that I wanted to make sure that you get out of this is that knowing the information is one piece of the puzzle, right? So knowing this information of the meal templates is one piece of the puzzle, but what I've given to you, I don't think is rocket science, to be honest. And there are a lot of other pieces of puzzles. I'll share my little story. And I was 109 kilos when I was 18, and there were a lot of painful moments, like my mum getting me a jacket for my birthday, and it didn't fit me, and I had to tell her we have to get this exchanged. And she turned back around to me and she said, "Ken, we can't get this one exchanged. It's the largest size jacket in the store." And she slammed the door and she walked out. And I went up to her later on, and I noticed that she'd actually been crying for the whole day. And that really hit me. So that was my starting point, and went through my ups and downs. And I realized that knowing the information was just one piece of the puzzle. And when I was able to put all the pieces of the puzzle together, this was what I look like right now. And from then, something my mentor actually said to me really stuck out after this was the fact that your story doesn't ever really belong to you, Kern. It belongs to the people in the world that need it. You've already lived through it. It's done. Your job is to share that story in such a way that it becomes an instrument for others to use. So that's really my motivation behind Body Knows Best and helping people achieve their health and fitness goals. And what I've been able to do is I've been able to work with dietitian, personal trainers, doctors, psychologists, exercise physiologists. And I went on this whole rampage and research of what helped me. And what helped me isn't necessarily what's going to help every single person, but I wanted to pick out the common threads. So I started researching nutrition and I started researching psychology, and I was able to put some of these pieces of puzzles together. And the three biggest factors that actually go beyond just knowing the information about nutrition and exercise is actually understanding your psychological factors, your social factors, and your environmental factors, such as living busy or stressed lives and things like that. And these three factors, clients face a lot of different types of obstacles that actually come out of these three different factors. And I'm going to share a list of these biggest obstacles for you, but I want you to look at the list. I don't want you to get overwhelmed by the list that I'm actually going to give to you, but I want you to look at that list and see which ones actually speak out to you the most. And I'll read them through to you. And it goes like this. Emotional eating, yo-yo diet cycles, appetite awareness, weekend eating, nutrient deficiencies, dehydration, poor beverage choice. And by the way, poor beverage choice is another way of saying alcoholism. Then there's social eating, environment temptations, hunger cravings, lack of motivation, poor sleep and recovery, not putting yourself first. And that's a really interesting one that I've actually come across after working with middle-aged women who've just had kids. It's very hard for them to put themselves first, so you need some systems and strategies in place to help you start putting yourself first and still be a good parent. And the last one is limited cooking skills, and this is something that a lot of, not being sexist here, but a lot of the guys struggle with this one. But the reason I'm so, I don't like to put this list out straight away to people, and that is because when we look at it, we want to do everything at once. So if I can give you an analogy of an elastic band, we try to address all our problems at the one time. And what we do is we pull this elastic band really hard and we end up creating a lot of resistance for ourselves. So we need a lot of motivation and willpower to get where we want to. And there's resistance in this elastic band, and sooner rather than later, you're going to come back, right? You're going to come back to your natural state because that's the easiest state. So rather than actually give you all the systems and strategies that I've helped my clients and the tools and the skills that have been able to address these biggest obstacles, I've actually wanted to give you an overall framework, right? And I wanted to give you the SMART habit framework because I think this is something that's going to be the most valuable for you, and then we can figure out the habits that you want to work on first. So the framework really is very straightforward. It's a very straightforward framework that I'm going to give you, but I don't want you to mistake the simplicity for the power that it has behind it, because it's helped a lot of my clients create long-term change. So let's jump straight into it. The first framework, the first thing in this 3S formula, I call it the 3S formula. So the first thing is that the habit that we're working on has to be simple. So what I mean by simple is that whatever habit that you're working on right now needs to be able to be done in any context of your life, and it needs to be broken down into single habits, right? So the reason why we do that is because there's research being done of the likelihood of success of retaining one habit over a year, which equates to 80%, When you increase that to 2 habits or 3 habits, it drops down to 35 and 5%, which is absolutely crazy. And it's so, doing the one habit approach, it's so funny because it's something that's so not natural to us, because we want to take massive action and we want to address every single thing at once. So it's really, really important to start with a one habit approach and build momentum and move that elastic band a little bit at a time, so that over time, this just becomes a part of you. It becomes natural. The second S in the 3S framework is that the habit that you're working on has to be strategic. So what I mean by strategic is that if you imagine yourself going into the emergency room, the nurse has a very clear framework of actually knowing which patients to put through to the doctors first, right? So the person who's bleeding the most, literally, who's bleeding the most has to be seen first. And it's the same with our habits. So there are some habits that pretty much they are bleeding the most from our health and fitness goals. So we need to be able to have a framework to be able to address those habits first. And the way that we do it in a very strategic and sequential manner in the coaching program that I will go through with my clients. And this is an overall framework for one of my clients. So this is going to be different depending on your situation, but this is one of them. And what we've done in the first part of this training of actually having those meal templates, that's just this little habit here. And believe it or not, that's actually not the most important habit, or that's not the most foundational habit to work on. There are some other ones that are more key that I'll be able to tell you if we actually get a chance to talk about your particular situation. But I wanted to share a story of Natalie, who's a girl from the Netherlands. She's really inspiring. So she came to me. She didn't actually have a lot of weight to lose, but for her, food was always on her mind. Like it would actually stress her out to seafood, because she had issues with how she portrayed herself, and whenever she looked at food, she'd be like, "Oh, this is gonna make me bigger," or like, "I'm trying a vegan diet. I'm gonna do this extreme diet," and it would just make her really anxious. So the biggest thing that she actually needed to work on was on her mindset. And how to become better and having a positive relationship with food. So her sequence of habits was very specific to her. Now, I just got this message from her the other day, actually, and it's very inspiring, and I thought I'd share it with you. And that is, didn't even realize this, but I looked at the weighing scale after a month and I had lost 3 kilos. But I know there's so much more than the number on the weighing scale. I've stopped obsessing about food, and it's taken away so much pressure off my shoulders. I'm feeling light both mentally and physically. And that's a message that I actually wanted to share with a lot of you, because what happens is that we start becoming obsessive about food and our health and fitness. And when we become obsessive, we actually kind of miss the bigger picture. And the reason why we want our health and fitness in our bodies is to actually be able to enjoy life, to do bigger things in life, to make an impact in the world. So it's really, really important to put everything in context and have your strategies and systems in a way so that you actually start thinking less about food rather than more. The third S about the Smart Habit framework is supported. Now, it is so important to be supported. The best analogy that I wanted to give was that actually when a building is being erected, it needs support to be able to erect. And it is so important to have support, especially at the start bit of the journey, because once those habits are in place and your start is being supported, the building becomes self-sustaining. And that should always be the goal. So you should never need to rely on a supplement company or on any other kind of thing or a person, because the goal is for you to be having the skills within yourself so you can sustain your healthy lifestyle for life, right? So it's really important to have that support behind you. And the way that I do that with my clients in the coaching program is, just to give it a little bit of a plug, is that we have fortnightly accountability calls. And when you have fortnightly accountability calls and there's human interaction, within that human interaction, transformation occurs place. And wanted to share a story of Shivam. Started at 115 kilos, someone who's actually lost a lot of weight in the past, but has actually gained it back. So he'd go through crazy rebound cycles. So the biggest thing that we worked on together in our accountability calls was we went through a sequence of habits, but underlying that, the biggest thing was always mindset, always to have that long-term approach towards his goals. And 8 months later, this is what he looks like now. And the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this is the like, look at his face. Like, his face now is totally different. Like, the personality, that aura that he has about himself is totally different. So I want you to know that this is so much more than weight loss. It's becoming a new person, and having the ability to live your life in a very different way. And he's out there, he's making an impact in the world with the work that he's doing, and it's really, really inspiring him for me to see someone like him. Now, I know I gave you a couple of pretty inspirational stories, but at the same time, I want to leave you off with this quote. And the quote is, "Success is like getting pregnant. Everyone congratulates you, but no one asks you how many times you got screwed to get there." And I find this so, so, so true, because it's the same with my story, it's the same with a lot of my client stories, and it's the same with a lot of other people who've gone through their body transformation, is that people see the before and after, and they don't see the things that are actually happening in between. And I can guarantee you, like, if you're watching this, there have been times that you failed in the past regarding your health and fitness goals, and that's totally normal. But if you have the right strategies, if you have the right systems, and if you have the right support, I can guarantee you that you will be able to reach your health and fitness goals. So I really hope that I was able to inspire you, and I was able to elicit some kind of new thinking within you, and actually having a more strategic long-term approach towards your goals. And the next step that I want from you is to not just like look at this from just a bit of entertainment, but actually ask yourself, what kind of help do you need to achieve your goals? Right? And that's a very, very important question to ask yourself, because this is what will get you started towards your goals. I'll make this really simple. It might be to actually talk to me. So I actually offer free 20-minute initial consultations, and we go through your nutrition assessment and see what kind of systems and strategies that we can put in place for you, and if you need further support. And if that's something that's your next step, I'd highly urge you to do that. If that's not your next step, I'd highly urge you, what is your next action step? Because this is just information, and information doesn't lead to transformation. Information can be an initial thing that, gets you to think about things, but information alone will never lead to transformation. It's about you taking action and take strategic action steps. So ask yourself, what's the next action step that I'm actually going to take? Am I just watching this video to be entertained for the 10-15 minutes that Ken is talking with his Australian accent, or is it to actually do something about it? And if it is to talk to me to help you get more clarity about it, it's really, really simple. You just go to bodyknowsbest.net/call and you book in a time. What we'll do actually right now is I'll show you how it works. It's a simple 2-minute process. So you go to Google or Safari and you pretty much type in bodyknowsbest.net/call, and you'll be redirected to a page in a second, and you pretty much select your time zones. I'm talking to people all over the world right now, but most of you are going to be in Australia. Select the time pretty much, and just fill out a quick form. And these questions are actually quite important for me to assess, to help you come up with the right systems and strategies for your specific situation as well. So I hope this enlightened you in some way, and I really hope this video, more than anything else, I want you to actually take some kind of action from it. And I hope that we get to talk in the future. Otherwise, I wish you all the best for your journey.